All right, guys, welcome back to another video. Today, I'm going to keep it really simple and extremely valuable for you. We are going to walk through exactly how we added $60,000 per month to this e-commerce brand in under 30 days. And this was literally done in the last 30 days. So this is as frequent and as recent as it gets. Genuinely, like you can see right here, July 27 to August 26. I'm currently recording this on the 26th of August. So this is the last 30 days. And what we've done for this brand is nothing short of incredible on Google Ads. You can see here, $60,000 in revenue with only $3,000 spent. And you can see just before we started actually spiking up in revenue, they were making practically nothing compared to what they are now. So we have really added an enormous amount of value to this brand. Yes, there is a lot of branded traffic in here that has to be noted. However, our cold traffic is running at something like a 7x ROAS right now. So there is no doubt that there is a lot of room for this brand to scale on new customer acquisition and cold traffic. So how did we do it? I'm going to keep it really quick for you guys. I'm going to break down the most valuable parts, walk you through every single step and show you exactly how we overhauled and transformed this brand. Now, a little bit of context before we start. This brand was already running on Meta. They were already spending up to $10,000 a day on Meta. So between 1 to 10K a day, depending on the day. They were making about 100K a month as a business. But as you can see here, we've added a lot of additional traffic with Google now that they've finally tapped into Google that they were basically underappreciating for a significant amount of time, right? They were spending heaps on Meta and nothing on Google, which is a very, very common theme that we see. And if you're in a similar situation, I implore you, please book a call down below because almost every brand we work with who has success on Meta sees comparable or even better success on Google most of the time. So I really do recommend it. If you are running Meta ads already, but not Google, please do book a call down below. Chat with me. I'll tell you exactly how you can make a lot more money using Google. So the method, how did we do this? How did we get these results? First of all, you can see we needed to have a conversion tracking overhaul. So the conversion tracking wasn't working when we went in. There were a lot of issues. First of all, the conversion classifications were set to basically there was more than one primary conversion, and this was sending mixed signals to Google, sending mixed signals to the algorithm, and resulting in poor quality data and poor quality optimization. So as a result, we changed them all to make sure that we just had a single primary conversion action, and that was in the form of a purchase. So we had a single purchase conversion action as our primary action, and that is what drove the optimization towards Google. Very important to not set your add to cart or begin checkout as a primary conversion because it's going to optimize for the wrong customers. I'm sure you can imagine someone who makes a purchase is not always the same as someone who adds to cart or begins checkout. So when you tell Google to find more people who add to cart or find more people who begin checkout, it doesn't necessarily produce the same quality of customers as when you tell Google to find people who will make a purchase. So make sure that purchase is your primary action and there's only one action for that purchase. All right. Now, a very big issue. This is probably the biggest issue that they had with their conversion tracking. It was not registering conversion values due to a broken setup. So this meant that every sale that was registered in the account was being registered as being worth $1, right? Regardless of the sale value. So if they sold a product for $140, for example, it would register as $1, which obviously is going to make it impossible to record any kind of attribution, any kind of performance, and it's going to make it a lot more difficult for the algorithm to target the right people as well. So this was having a very significant impact on performance as a whole, and that needed to be fixed. So we went in, fixed up the conversion tracking as per all of our guides, as per our standard practices, and we introduced dual actions to ensure consistency and accuracy of data. So now we have two functional purchase actions, both of which are recording values, and they are our manual GTM, Google Tag Manager setup. So we have a completely custom coded manual GTM setup that we use across all of our client accounts to make sure that we're getting really high quality, accurate data. I can link you to the instructional video for this GTM setup in the description below if you want to set up your conversion tracking. And then we also use a Shopify integration. This one is really simple. Basically, you just go through Shopify, you make sure your Google Ads is connected to Shopify and make sure that it's tracking conversions. So now that we had the dual actions, we were able to make sure that the data was consistent across both of these purchase actions and was accurate in both of the actions too. So we weren't miscounting conversions, over-reporting, under-reporting, anything like that. We can make sure that the actions were accurate at all times. Now, another big issue that we saw was in the Google Merchant Center cleanup that we had to do, right? So the Google Merchant Center was extremely messy when we went in. The biggest issue, as I was saying, is that the products were not assigned into accurate categories, which caused chaos in Google Ads campaigns and an inability to effectively segregate our product groups. So basically the store sells a range of activewear, but they do specialize in a specific niche of this activewear, and they have multiple categories of it, right? So in Google Ads, the people who were running the ads previously did attempt to categorize the products into the right categories. However, it didn't really work, and they kind of had them all in the wrong place, and everything was mixed up and mismatched. And as a result, we couldn't effectively segregate out in Google, because obviously to segregate your products in Google, you have to have them classified well in Merchant Center first, because Merchant Center allows you to basically classify all your products in bulk. So then you can go over to Google Ads and effectively sort them in your campaigns. Now, obviously that was not the case. So we went in and overhauled all of that, made sure that all of the categories were accurate, all of the products were in the right places, so we could easily organize them in the Google Ads account, which is very, very important for getting functional and high performing campaigns. You need to be segregating out products by category and type, right? Another thing that we noticed is that product titles and descriptions were not effectively optimized, and we're missing critical information to inform the targeting algorithm. So in case you're not aware, the way that shopping campaigns and PMAX campaigns with shopping listings in Google work is Google uses data from your product titles and your product descriptions to inform who to show your ads to. So you don't put keywords in like a search campaign, right? Google basically reads your product, it reads your title, reads your description, and it says, okay, I know what this product is. I'm going to show it to people searching for it. So for example, if you're selling a toothbrush and your description is teeth whitening special toothbrush, right? Google will then match your shopping listing to people searching for a teeth whitening toothbrush. So that's how it works, right? And if your titles and descriptions are not fully optimized, if you don't include all the necessary descriptive factors, or if your title is just kind of inaccurate or nondescript, you're not going to show for any of the right searches, and you're not going to be showing at all, really. Like, you could, in worst case scenario, be showing for the complete wrong searches if your title is really inaccurate, in which case you'd just be wasting money, right? So make sure that your products are optimized. It doesn't have to be like to the absolute nth degree. Just make sure that they are accurate, they have useful features, and they have useful descriptions and titles that make sense for the product. Okay, and then finally, there were issues as well with multiple country feeds and shipping prices and ineligible products. So basically, this is just a Google Merchant Center kind of setup thing. You need to make sure when you are setting up your Merchant Center that you have aligned currencies between your products and your shipping prices. This is one I see happen a lot in a lot of accounts. Google may tell you that you have mismatched currencies. What this means is you just need to make sure that your shipping policy, which is relevant to the product, is in the same currency as your product itself. Even if you have free shipping, you need to make sure the currency in the shipping policy is still set to whatever it may be, USD, GBP, has to be the same as the product, even if you have free shipping. Look out for that one. It's one I see a lot. It's a little bit of a quick tip. Make sure you get that right. Aside from that though, country feeds, you may have multiple countries that you sell in. You want to make sure that if you do have different feeds for those countries, all the feeds are functional, all the feeds are active, and everything's working as you expect. All right, finally, after we'd fixed the Merchant Center and fixed the conversion tracking, the next step was implementing a smart structure and scaling up, right? So we introduce a very simple and effective structure to effectively advertise all of our products within their distinct categories. So as I mentioned before, we need to make sure that our products are being advertised in their specific categories, in their specific groups within campaigns, because that is the best way to get the best optimization in your campaign, right? I guess to describe this, we could say that if you have a singular campaign with, again, a range of toothbrushes, however, these toothbrushes, one of which may be teeth whitening, one of which may be anti-plaque buildup, and one of which may be electric, for example, the other two are manual, right? If we grouped all these toothbrushes into a single group within the campaign, you would likely find that Google is going to have a harder time finding the right people to sell each product to, because each product category has a very slightly different customer. People looking for a teeth whitening toothbrush aren't necessarily the same people as those looking for plaque reduction, right? Plaque reduction are people who get plaque buildup. Teeth whitening are probably people who don't have plaque buildup and just want to whiten their teeth. So by separating these out into separate categories, it allows Google to really niche down the audiences for each of these categories and identify specific audiences for each product category, so it can really, really break down into more detail and figure out what your customer looks like for that product, right? So don't group all your products in one campaign, one ad group. If you have categories, split them out by your categories, you'll get better optimization. Now, because we had existing conversion data in the account, although it wasn't perfect, as I mentioned, it was missing conversion values, but still some data was still helpful. We were able to start with a PMAX campaign, which is really helpful. If you're at the very beginning of an account with no conversion data, don't try and use PMAX. It's not going to work because PMAX relies very heavily on conversion data in order to produce results. If you're starting at the very beginning of an account, I recommend using shopping campaigns and search campaigns with maximize clicks bidding strategy. That is going to give you the best bet at getting those initial conversions in before moving over to PMAX. Now, finally, we had a strong focus on separating brand and non-brand traffic so we could effectively measure new customer acquisition. This is very important, especially for a brand like this, because they're spending so much money on Meta, as I mentioned already. We want to make sure that we are effectively attributing Google new customers, right? A lot of the customers that come through Google are inevitably going to be branded traffic, as you'll see briefly here in the screenshot, but branded traffic obviously needs to be separated so we can tell who's coming from Meta, who's already been essentially convinced by the ads on Meta, and then who's coming in through cold traffic. So I'll break down exactly what our structure looks like. These are literally the only 5 campaigns active in the account right now, and they're producing pretty insane results, as you can see. So this is our branded campaign, which is driving a huge amount of revenue. As you can see, $40,000 with only $240 spend. Ridiculous ROAS of 165. So yeah, this brand is killing it on Meta. And as a result, we're scooping up some really good profits from Meta and bringing them through Google and converting people at the last stage of the funnel. Now, there are hundreds and hundreds of, sorry, not hundreds. There are many arguments for why you should run branded campaigns in Google. A lot of people are resistant to it for a range of reasons, which makes sense. However, there are so many good reasons to run it. One of which is informing the algorithm. The more data points the algorithm has on what your ideal customer looks like, the better it is going to target new customers. So by bringing in all of this branded traffic for such a cheap price comparatively, right? We paid $250 to get $40,000 of data here, $40,000 of revenue and data. It's such a cheap price in comparison to inform the algorithm of exactly what your ideal customers look like. And beyond that, we're also just basically guaranteeing the sale. So if you don't have a branded campaign running, but you're a big brand like this one, you're going to have competitors bidding on your brand name and trying to steal your customers at the last step of the funnel. We do not want to let them do that. So we want to advertise in our own brand and make sure that we're always showing up for our brand name and you're not having competitors stealing your traffic at the last step of the funnel, because that just sucks. And it means you've already paid for your competitor to get a customer, essentially. So I always recommend running brand, especially for big brands, because as you can see, the cost of a brand campaign is negligible in comparison to the revenue it can produce, right? So aside from brand, we can see this is the current PMAX setup. As I said, we're running PMAX only right now because it works and PMAX can do really well in situations like this. So we have a PMAX bestsellers campaign. I love running bestsellers campaigns. This one's fresh to start in the account. It's a bit newer. However, you can see it has a really high ROAS. What this does is it basically just advertises our 3 to 5 best products, groups them into this campaign specifically so we can make sure they're getting enough budget and they're being pushed effectively outside of our regular categories. Then we have a PMAX all other products campaign. So this is basically all of our other products within their niche outside of these 2 specific niches. I have blacked out the campaign names here because they describe exactly the product the client is selling, and I don't want to reveal too much here. But basically, these 2 campaigns advertise different categories of this specific niche product. And then they also have a bunch of other products on their website too that aren't within this niche category, but still align within the niche as a whole. So you can see here we have PMAX for one category, PMAX for another category, PMAX for everything else, and then a PMAX for bestsellers. All of these PMAXs have brand traffic excluded. They have brand exclusions enabled and negative keywords to try and filter out as much branded traffic as possible. And as you can see, most of the branded traffic is definitely going to the search campaign. And if you do check the search insights, we're obviously always looking at the search terms, search insights on these PMAX campaigns. We're seeing very, very little branded traffic come through, which is an awesome sign for us because it means that these campaigns are primarily bringing in new customers. And when we're getting a new customer ROAS of 10, 7, 4, and 8, like that's pretty incredible. So this campaign and this account as a whole has an enormous amount of potential to scale. I'm really excited to keep scaling it. You guys are probably going to see a case study down the line of this being even greater. Hopefully very soon we'll be up around 100K plus per month, and that will be absolutely awesome. So we'll see how things go. But for now, I hope you guys found this one helpful. I hope you got some value out of this video. And I really did break down absolutely everything with no information barred to try and give you as much value as possible. Once again, if you are looking for help with your own Google Ads, please feel free to book a call using the link below. I'd love to help you. And if you have any questions or suggestions for future videos, please feel free to drop them in the comments. Otherwise, I will see you in the next video. Cheers.